that you can use to scope what must go in your course. And there's more. I'm going to share with you my proprietary hybrid design canvas for hyper-effective and profitable courses. I have never shared this outside of our paid programs before, so this is the first time. I'm going to share with you the 6 dimensions of course design and how AI fits into them. We're going to talk about prompt engineering a lot, what it is and how to use it to save tons of time with AI. And we're going to talk about the role of coaching in online courses, especially in a world of AI. And as I think all of you know, this is part of a 3-day bootcamp. On Monday, we started with an overview of what ChatGPT is, including a live demo that a lot of people found a little bit shocking in terms of what it can do. Then we talked more about the right way and the wrong way to use this technology, particularly when it comes to online courses and online business. And that's informed by an understanding of the technology's limitations. Fundamentally, there are a couple of big limitations. The internet up to 2021, and newer versions will be more current. But the training data isn't curated. It's all the internet, and there is a lot of garbage on the internet. So that's the first issue, garbage in, garbage out. The second issue is that we're not talking about any kind of sentience or discernment. It doesn't understand your questions or the answers that it's giving you. All it's doing is putting together a statistical model of what is the most likely next right word and next right word till it gets to the end of the answer. And that means that it will be wrong a decent portion of the time, but it will be confidently wrong. It will have no awareness of the fact that it's doing the high-tech equivalent of bullshitting on a test, because it has no awareness of anything at all. So that's the second issue. Even though it's garbage in, garbage out, it won't have any awareness of whether it is right or wrong. And third is the fact that you're not the only one who has access to this technology. So does everybody else. So it's not quite the differentiating factor that people like to pretend that it is. And because of these limitations, the right way to use the technology is to do a lot more of what you're already doing and to do it a lot faster. It's essentially a time-saving device. You want to essentially treat the AI as an infinitely hardworking and only reasonably competent assistant. So you would give precise instructions, you would use that assistant to save yourself a lot of time, but you wouldn't trust a lot of what they would do for you without the oversight for you to evaluate and know if it's right or wrong. So, for example, you would ask an assistant to research and to draft and to summarize and to synthesize in areas where you have the expertise to know what they got right and what they didn't. But you would not ask an assistant to discern or decide or finalize or represent or advise, because they just don't know enough about your subject area to make those judgments. Those would be the wrong way to use the technology. But unfortunately, as we explored on Monday, marketers everything way, which creates a tragedy of the commons and leads to the spamification of information. And that applies to articles, to ebooks, and yes, also to many online courses. And it means that the value and price of information-only courses is about to go down pretty much to zero, except for courses that are created by legitimate experts who have meaningful knowledge, discernment, and insights in their fields. There is still a market for courses that are based on that sort of expertise. And how to do it, and selling courses in the age of AI. So that's kind of the whole span of this bootcamp. And of course, I also extended on Monday an exclusive invitation for people who are ready to go all in to seize this opportunity to apply for our new Hybrid Course Accelerator AI edition, which includes 3 full courses, our Hybrid Course Launch, Audience, and Scale programs, over $2,000 of done-for-you tech and marketing setup, 7 months of one-on-one coaching, a 100% ROI guarantee, or I'll pay the difference myself. Plus, there is a bonus that I haven't talked about much, but we will do some promotion of what you are doing, plus the bonus of the library of time-saving AI prompts. And the response has been amazing, and a bunch of you have already applied. We're excited to talk to you and welcome you into the program if it is a fit. But right now, let's get into our area of focus for today, which is premium course design with ChatGPT and the hybrid design canvas. And before we go into the course design stuff, I want to spend a moment on the first word of the title, which is premium. When I say premium, I mean not cheap. I mean an amount of money that would get you excited to be paid and that would require a considered commitment on the part of your students. And that does involve a choice because, as we discussed on Monday, not all courses will justify a premium. In fact, most courses are going in the opposite direction, down pretty much to zero. Those are information-only courses, and they're the sort of courses that can be generated in infinite numbers and mediocre quality by AI tools like ChatGPT. And that isn't good for anyone, but it especially doesn't work for independent course creators simply because your total revenue is a function of two things: the price that you can charge times the volume of sales that you can generate. And if you're multiplying by a tiny price, it only adds up to anything meaningful if you can multiply it by a very large volume. It's the difference between the business models of Boeing and Coca-Cola. When Boeing sells an airplane for $50 million, every additional sale is a big deal. When Coca-Cola sells another can of Coke for 99 cents, that's not a very big deal. It only adds up to something significant if you're selling a large volume. And you don't want to be in that Coca-Cola model because you're just not going to be able to drive that kind of volume. Right? Not that both business models can't make a lot of money. Obviously, Boeing and Coca-Cola both do quite well for themselves, but you get there differently. And for most independent course creators, the Coca-Cola business model isn't on the table because of some pretty simple business math that starts with the price you're going to charge. Now, some brand new entrepreneurs have this fantasy that if they charge $100, 90 of those dollars will end up in their pocket. But I think most of the people on this call understand that that's not how things work in the real world. Things cost money and things have to, money goes to pay for things that you're doing. And as a rule of thumb, the price that you're going to charge is going to split into three roughly even buckets. The first is customer acquisition, about a third of the money that you're going to take in from a customer, that's going to go to acquiring the customer or, the next customer. A third will go towards fulfillment, delivering on the experience you promised. And a third is contribution profit. And if you have enough of that, then it's real profit and, goes down to the bottom line. What this means is that if you aren't charging enough to be able to comfortably acquire a customer, you're going to be caught in this perpetual catch-22 cycle of not enough sales because I can't afford marketing, because not enough sales because I can't afford marketing, because not enough sales because I can't afford marketing. And this is the cycle that a lot of entrepreneurs find themselves in. Put catch-22 into the chat if you've found yourself in that kind of cycle of, not enough sales because I can't afford marketing, because not enough sales because I can't afford marketing, because not enough sales because I can't afford marketing. I see a lot of people have had this experience and they're familiar with what it feels like, which is not good. Well, the way you break out of that cycle is by charging let me say that differently. There are actually two ways to break out of that cycle. You can charge a premium, which is what most people have to do, or you can have some sort of unfair advantage that changes the math by making it possible for you to get lots of customers without being constrained by what you can afford to pay to acquire them. And there are unfair advantages that exist in the world. You can have early mover advantage. If you're one of the first people on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, then you're going to do very well just because you're the first one there. You get an enormous share of voice. But you have to be in the right place at the right time. You have to catch the right wave. If it turns out to be Periscope or Clubhouse, then all that hard work was for nothing. And law of large numbers, statistically speaking, most of us are not the first at anything. Another unfair advantage would be prime placement, right? If you get showcased on the front page of Udemy or Google or whatever, then you can do really well. Look at these courses. We're talking about tens, if not hundreds of thousands of reviews. They're doing great. But those are the ones on the homepage. Most of the courses on Udemy hardly see any sales at all. This is why LinkedIn paid $1.5 billion to acquire lynda.com and turn it into LinkedIn Learning, because prime placement, they can put all that content in front of it. I think it's 800 million LinkedIn users now. That's an unfair advantage. You can have celebrity status. right? This is the Kylie Cosmetics strategy to building a business. They went from zero to $1 billion in 5 years with 12 employees and no marketing budget. But they did have Kylie Jenner's 150 million followers. So nice little unfair advantage. Another example of this would be Barack Obama's book that came out and on the very first day sold 900,000 copies. And it was a very simple marketing strategy. Step one, be president of the United States. Step two, publish a book. Simple, but not accessible to most people. Another unfair advantage would be if you are buying in bulk. We all know from our regular lives that if you buy one roll of toilet paper, it costs more per unit than if you go to Costco or something like that, and you buy 400 rolls of toilet paper, right? It's cheaper. Well, the same applies to ads. So if you look at who's advertising for the major keywords in your niche, they're probably not spending, hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of dollars on ads like you or I might. They're spending hundreds of thousands or millions or tens of millions of dollars every month. And so, Facebook and Google give them a discount. So that's great if you can play at that level, but we can't compete. And of course, there is subsidized acquisition where you don't actually have to be profitable because you've just got so much money in the bank. So, if you've got $100 million of venture capital in the bank, then you don't have to worry about turning a profit on every sale. If you have an elaborate value ladder, right? The free thing leads to the $10 thing, leads to the $100 thing, leads to the $1,000 thing, and so on and so forth, then the back end subsidizes the front end. But most people don't have all that in place, at least not when they're getting started. So these are all unfair advantages that change the basic math. And most of us don't have any of those unfair advantages. Certainly, we don't start out with them. And that is why, for the most part, course creators need to charge a premium for your business to be profitable, sustainable, and support you in achieving your goals. And hybrid courses do that. They do that by delivering the two things that an AI cannot do. First, legitimate expertise that imparts knowledge, discernment, and insight. And just as importantly, they deliver real transformation. And that's what people are willing and eager to pay a premium for. That they will come out the other end of your course with skills and abilities that they need to achieve the outcomes they want. So let's talk about how to engineer transformation and especially how AI fits into the picture. And since we're going to talk about using AI, we need to talk about prompt engineering. If you've been paying attention to the world of AI and ChatGPT, then you've already been hearing this term a lot. Put the words "a lot" into the chat if you're like, yes, I've heard about this a lot. Everybody is talking about prompt engineering. Take a sip of my drink while you type. Okay, a lot of people are saying, yes, I've seen it a lot. I know a lot of people also have not seen it at all if you haven't been plugged into this world. So let's start by defining our terms. A prompt is the question or request that you pose to ChatGPT. So if you were to say, hey, ChatGPT, I'm an expert on fill in the blank topic. Can you propose 8 topics for courses that someone like me could sell? That is a prompt. If you say, okay, let's go with the third option. What are 12 different titles that I could give that course? That is a prompt. If you say, please outline for me a 4-week curriculum for this course, that is a prompt. These are all examples of prompts. And you saw these and other examples in Monday's session of the bootcamp. Now, we already talked about the garbage in, garbage out problem as it applies to the data that GPT engine is trained on. But garbage in, garbage out also applies to your prompts. Good prompts will lead to better outcomes, and lousy prompts will lead to bad ones. Remember how in the last session we talked about treating the AI like an infinitely hardworking and reasonably competent assistant? Well, think about how you'd give instructions to your assistant if you wanted them to do good work. And keep in mind that unlike a reasonably competent human assistant, ChatGPT won't get to know you over time and won't infer from context what you mean but didn't actually say. Now, the most important key to creating a good prompt is to be specific about what you're asking for. The more specific your instructions, the better the results are likely to be. Compare, for example, this prompt, write me a sales letter about my course teaching people how to reduce stress. Pretty generic, you'll get something kind of, sort of, okay, maybe passable, with a more detailed and precise prompt. I've spent 12 years studying the intersection of emotional freedom technique, EFT, and yoga, and I'm creating a course on that topic. Please write me a sales letter following the AIDA framework that speaks to mid-career professional women. Please include a dozen or so fascination bullets of specific things students will learn through the program. This is a much more detailed and precise prompt. Now, of course, there's more that goes into good prompt engineering, and we're going to go into a lot more depth inside the hybrid course accelerator, including giving you a library of pre-written fill-in-the-blank prompts that you can use to get started. But for now, let's just practice a little bit. Let's practice being specific. I'm going to give you a few minutes for